And inside, I'm just saying, God, would you heal my heart just like you healed my wife's body? And I felt when he healed my heart. And I felt when he told me, you could trust me.
Went to sleep. The next morning I wake up, and that's when it hit me that hatred for that man that had killed my brother was gone.
It was almost like a voice that spoke to my heart and said that I didn't need that there was something better. And that immediately, from that point on, I lost the complete desire for drugs.
And Walter knew that I had been healed, but I wanted to be sure before I testified of it. And now I get to testify because I'm absolutely sure that God healed me of depression.
The other two things were strengthened relationships with my family and with my God. November 3rd was the worst and best day of my life.
Hello, everyone. This is welcome to the Would Somebody Testify podcast. With me today, I have Brother Juan and Sister Teresa Lopez. Again.
Well, thank you, Stephen, for inviting us again. And I would like to mention a little bit. I know that somebody from the Fresno Church, I won't mention any names because I don't want to embarrass her, but Brother Andrew Holmes knows her really good. Anyway, she was making some comments that were on your podcast, maybe a little bit too much. And so I wanted to throw out a scripture that says that if you want friends, you must show yourself friendly. And and I just want to just for everybody that doesn't know, Stephen and me, we go a long ways. How old were you when you came from Idaho?
1 year old.
Yeah, so I've known him all his life, and our friendship started by me harassing him and showing him some time and playing with him. And I remember one time, I don't know what we were doing in church and outside, and Stephen was there, and it just looked like he might want to climb a tree, which his mom didn't think he wanted to climb a tree. So I just grabbed him and put him on the tree and then walked away. And his mom started screaming, and get my boy down. And you just wait till you have your children. I'm going to put them up and I'm going to torture them and I'm going to do this and that to them. And luckily she's gotten old and feeble and she can't carry them. Pick up my kids and put them on trees and leave.
No, your kids have just gotten big.
So anyway, we've had some good times with Brother Stephen, and so that way, when you start your friendship when they're little, then when they become rich and famous and start their own podcast, then they'll invite you. So this goes to.
Oh wow, this is I need to follow these tips. I need to find someone rich and famous.
So anyway, thank you, Stephen, for inviting us. I just thought I'd throw that in there. This certain sister was giving me a hard time at youth camp, so I just thought I'd throw it in there. But anyway, we're thankful that you've asked us to come back again, especially with my wife again. I always enjoy the podcast better even if she's just sitting here with me. And so today we'd like to share, I guess, a testimony that we both have benefited from. So anyway, I'll let my wife get started.
Thank you again for having us. And I'm going to share a little bit, I guess the whole podcast, about my skin condition. When I was born, I have pictures of me in the little bassinet in the hospital, and there is a little tube of ointment in the corner of the little baby bed. Because at birth, I was diagnosed with atopic dermatitis, which is also known as eczema. And that is a chronic skin condition that's characterized by dry, itchy, or inflamed rashes. The atopic means that your predisposition to food allergies or allergies of any kind, asthma, hay fever, external triggers. It is not contagious, but it can affect people of all ages, and it often begins in childhood. And so for me, I was a fifth generation. My mother had some dry skin. Her mother had some dry skin. My grandmother's mother did, and my grandmother's mother's mother also did. So it seemed to be on the female gene somehow. And with each generation, it seemed to get progressively worse. I began to, of course, I'm a newborn. I'm drinking milk. I was a really bad spit up baby. So they tried various formulas that were available at that time. And at the age of 6 months, I was taken off of all milk, off all formula. I have never held my mother's choices against her. She made the best choices for me based on her present knowledge of my condition and the options that were available to her. But she took my skin condition to heart and did everything she could to help me. And even to this day, I mean, she's great. My mother could also probably give many more details about my skin condition, but this testimony really is like from my perspective. So the first memories that I have are around preschool age. I remember at bath times, the bends of my legs and arms would crack open and bleed. It was nothing like a deep cut. It was like a paper cut, but it would be lengthy. It would be the length of the bend of the arm or the knee, and the water just would be painful. You can think of how a paper cut would feel, but now you have several paper cuts in several locations, and when you get in the bathtub, it hurts. In first grade, I remember the back of my neck was really bad, and so I wore my hair in a ponytail a lot just to let it air and stay cool, because it seemed like if these areas would become hot, they would itch a lot more. I remember growing up in elementary school years, sleeping with some type of heavy, gooky ointment on my hands, and then would put on a well-fitted cotton glove, and then on top of that, a plastic glove, and so that it would retain the moisture, so that come morning, hopefully they would not be so dry. But then you wake up and you look like an old lady because they're all pruny, your fingertips and all. So, but those were some of the things that we did. Sometimes I would not use creams because the creams seemed to like seal in the skin being able to breathe, and it would heat it up, and then that caused itching. So you never knew whether to put ointments on or not to. You never knew whether to wash your hands in cold water or hot water. You never knew what was going to trigger it. And then I would begin to use one ointment. I did go to the doctor periodically, not a lot, but some during this time when it would become worse. And they would give me whatever kind of ointment. I would use it for a while. My skin would start to get better, never completely go away, but get better. And then all of a sudden, it was like I developed a resistance to that particular ointment. Then I would try another ointment, which would help. And then I would develop a resistance to that one. And then it was another. And then after several ointments, you could go back and try a previous one. And it was just a vicious cycle. There was no real answers there. It was just kind of coping with it. I was a normal little girl as far as I ran. I played, I ate. I just wanted to enjoy life. And the problem was just something that you just dealt with. I don't know. I didn't let it stop me. I kept going and doing. The doctor had said that probably around the age of 12, I would outgrow these symptoms, the skin condition. And in a way I did, but it became localized and it became more aggravated. So instead of being like kind of all over patchy, it was like from my wrists down. So it was my hands, and it was my face to the back of my ears. And that's what everybody could see. So there's no way to hide it. I also grew up having digestive issues. And digestive issues would mean every 3 or 4 months, I would have a random throw up episode. Typically in the middle of the night. I was a very heavy sleeper, so I would just wake up and then just throw up all over the bed. And it was not unusual for me to also have like a very severe throwing up, diarrhea simultaneous, to the extent that my body would go into shock and I'd pass out. So we never like pursued the digestive issues growing up. It's just, I was not, I don't know. We just dealt with it. I threw up, I felt better, I continued life. And then in 3 or 4 months, it would happen again. I never really knew what triggered it. I don't know. I don't know if my body was in overload with allergic foods, because I did not do any allergy testing until I was 23 of that sort. When I was around the age of 18, my mother began to make homemade bread. She would grind her own wheat and tried to make a little bit healthier choices, maybe. We just ate like everybody else, so nothing unusual. And one day she came home and she had some wheat germ that she had bought. And she said, "Here, taste this." And she probably gave me 1/4 of a cup and a spoon and said, "Taste it." Well, I love textured foods, nutty tasting foods, and it tasted that way. And I was like, "Oh, this is so good." So while I am eating it, we're talking about it. I'm like, "Where'd you run into this? What do you use it for?" We're just talking. And she looks at me and she said, "Teresa, what's happening?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." She said, "Your face around your mouth is like turning red. You're breaking out. You're having a reaction to this." Well, it was the only thing I was eating, and it was right then. And that was the first time that I realized I might have a food allergy. And it was because she could visibly see it, happening right then. So we began to just notice, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't eat this. Maybe, but nothing in a formal sense. When I was 23, when I was 20, I met Juan. And, yeah. And so, anyway, but I met him. He went back to California, and I kept going to school, and he went on with his life. And when I was 23, I had some food allergy testing that whole year. And I have the file here that it was about 6 months worth of testing that they did. And as a result, I couldn't keep up with everything. So I made a list, and here's my list. And it's the foods that I can eat and the foods that I should avoid. And it's by category. And I'm not going to...
they can't see it, but show Steven so he can get an idea of which column of the foods that you could eat. And
it actually would take less time to read what I could eat versus what I can't eat. These are the ones that I cannot eat, and these are the ones that I can eat. And so just to give you an idea, I mean, first off, I was not a huge meat eater. And, so that wasn't, a big deal to me. But I grew up in the South, so the vegetables were a big deal to me. And every vegetable was a no, except for cabbage mix, garlic, spinach, and tomato.
Yeah,
And
not a
not a lot to choose from.
certainly not from the not only in the South.
Yeah. And then, like, there was a fair amount of fruits, but I wasn't a big fruit eater at that time. It wasn't that I didn't care for it. I just didn't eat a lot of it. And then I could eat cheese and milk, but I could not eat cottage cheese and yogurt. So it wasn't like a rhyme or rhythm that you take out this whole section types of food. It was just going down the middle of every food category. And then like the grains, no wheat germ, no barley, no cornmeal, because I love cornbread. That was a big deal. But I could have oat, rice, and rye. So, I mean, it was crazy. So here I am. Each time we go, they give me a new list. And then, of course, there's the external irritants. Avoid being in a dusty environment. Well, I can't live in a bubble. Avoid, whatever. The list went on.
Share with them. You shared with me that when you would get up in the wintertime, and if you were going to wear your coat, it wasn't that you took it off yesterday and you're going to wear it again and it's fine. She had to get the coat and put it in the dryer.
No, I would vacuum. I'd get the vacuum cleaner out and I would vacuum the whole coat off and then I would put it on. And you know how if you're cold, you kind of pull the coat around your neck. You want it. No, I did not want it touching me because, yes, I vacuumed it off. But if I got too hot, my face and my neck, then it would start itching. And I mean, it was every morning in the winter. It was just part of the routine.
She shared it a few times that she's in a hurry and she just grabs it like, oh, it's no big deal. I just wore it. And then she would pay for it.
It was a 20-minute drive to work. And by the time I got to work, I had clawed my neck and my face so much and I couldn't stop clawing. I'd go in the bathroom, cold water, and still, I mean, you have to wait till the reaction stops and settles down. So it was, you alter your lifestyle real quick because you don't want to be, itching all the time.
Am I remembering right that even your boss at either that or similar employment would rotate the air filters on the AC more frequently than normal to try and help it? Even then, you could tell?
Some of the places I worked, they did. And they would allow my parents to come in after hours. We would vacuum my area, clean the carpets. And I mean, they were cleaning the carpets, but we would come in and do more, just trying to make it so I could work. It wasn't, if you had walked into my office, it would have looked like any other office. It would have been equally as clean. But to me, it had to be like more. And my mother would clean my room every day. We had a special EnviroCare that she would, I was in a room with no carpet. She vacuumed the pillows, the comforters. It was a lot of extra work she did at home also for me. And so that was external. And then you've got something going on internally. So one of the times that I was going for all of these allergy testing, the very first time they did it, they said, we're just going to do like a few. I want to say like 5, maybe. I mean, it was a very, very few. And I was like, I'm driving a long ways. This was not just a down the street thing. I was having to take off work to go. It was quite a drive. And they said, no, we can't do that many. And I was like, why? I'm here. Just go for it. I've got 2 arms, load them up with the little pricks. And they said, well, you could have a reaction of some kind. I said, they'll just break out. I had lived with it my whole life. I didn't see breaking out was a big deal. They said, no, you can, like your throat can close up. And I was like, I've never had any kind of reaction. Like, yeah, but we don't know. So they want to take it real slow. After, I guess they chose which ones. And then they realized I was not going to have that type of reaction. Then they started doing more each time. And so they began to share with me each time more and more. And I said, so there's supposed to be like breathing issues because I have all of these allergies. And they said, oh, yeah, we have never seen anybody with this many food allergies. And said, after the 6 months or so that I had been going, they said, "Can we please do a study on you?" Like, the doctor came in and she says, "I've been doing this for 20 years. I've never seen anybody with this many." And I said, so you do a study on me. What, how am I going to benefit? Am I going to be better? It's like, well, no promise. Nobody has anything like it. Probably not. And I said, I really don't want to be a guinea pig. Sorry, I'm not going to support your research. I just wanted to be better. I just wanted to be like everybody else and enjoy life. And one of the times that I went, they ask each time, okay, what did you eat? How did your body respond? All these things. And I was just trying to keep from reacting. So I was very, very, very careful with my diet. And I was eating like a spinach sandwich. It was this like 3-ingredient bread with just a little smear of mayonnaise and a stack of spinach leaves, and I would eat 2 or 3 of those at one time. That would be a meal. And then
eating these sandwiches, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. And, the Lord had already worked. But she was so used to eating these kind of sandwiches that one day I came home and she was eating the sandwich. And I knew that I would tell the story. So I did not want to exaggerate. I got my tape measure out and it was close to 5 inches of lettuce. It was 2 pieces of bread and lettuce and maybe a piece of tomato and stuff. But I measured and the bread and the lettuce itself was close to 5 inches. So just to kind of give you an idea of what she was eating when she says the spinach sandwiches, the lettuce sandwiches.
But I had to eat some food. I was hungry. And so I was just trying to choose something off the list. And looking back, it wasn't that it was tasting really great. I was just so hungry. And I remember one day, they asked me when I was going for this, they said, when you eat whatever food, does your tongue tingle? And I was like, well, yeah. Doesn't yours? Doesn't everybody's? I said, no, that means that you are having a reaction to it. And I said, oh, I didn't know. Thought everybody's tongue tingled when they ate whatever the food was. And then they kept saying, when you have digestive issues, you have allergies, then you should eat soy. Well, I tried to eat different forms of soy, and every time I did, I would have abdominal cramps for a full 24 hours. It was going through my system, and it was horrible. So I realized real quick, soy might help some people. I cannot handle it. And because of the restricted diet, I was not getting enough salt in my diet. So one day at work, I was just so hungry and I was having some cramps, and I'm thinking, I've not eaten any soy. Why am I having cramps? And I thought, if I could just have a bag of peanuts, because I love peanuts. And so I went to the vending machine there in the break room. I bought a little pack of peanuts, and I was in a meeting, so you can't just chomp down, So I just took one little peanut out and I put it in my mouth. It was like, oh, the salt. It was just, I rolled that little peanut around so I got all the salt off. And then I was just like savoring that taste. Well, by the time I finished the little pack of peanuts, the cramps went away. And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm not getting enough salt. With such a restricted diet, I was missing some of the basic nutrients that I needed. And I love, love, love French fries, but I was highly allergic to them. So I could only eat like 1 or 2 French fries. So it was just like all my favorite foods were a no. And so one day I was crying in my room, and my mother said, she came in, she says, Teresa, what's wrong? I said, I just want to eat. She said, if you could eat anything, what would you eat? And I said, I want peas, cornbread, corn, potatoes. I just wanted the food I had always eaten my whole life. And everything was a no. And I don't remember if it was that time or another time. She said, just eat. You're going to break out anyway. It wasn't like my skin would get totally better anyway. She said, go break out and then we'll go back to eat, And so when I was 25 years old, I moved to a new office building, and I had a lot of stress in my life at that time with work and at home. It's around the time that my mother was chemical poisoned, and she was not doing well. So I don't know if it was just the extra stresses, the new environment in that building, but my skin just erupted. And I had to take off work to kind of let my skin settle down. I was word processor and administrative secretary. So everything was on the computer, and just the small amount of finger movement right at the base of the fingers, that all busted open and was swollen, so that just the small movement of typing, it just would open up and bleed. So, I mean, it was a mess. I couldn't work. I could not pick up a glass of water, like, to wrap my fingers around it. It would take two hands, keeping the fingers straight, to try to drink. Everything was a mess right then. And my face, my neck. So I took off some time at work and tried to get better. And also during all this time, when I would go to potlucks, it was, you just, you go through the line, and you see a dish without a utensil. So you just pick up a utensil from a neighboring dish, and you just get whatever you want out of that dish. And then, so you've got cross-contamination for somebody with food allergies. Not that that's okay to do if you don't have food allergies, but if you do, like somebody like me, it's like, oh my goodness, now it's a big deal. I'm eating something I didn't want to eat because it was on the spoon. Let's see. I'm very social, so I would continue to go to whatever social events and socialize with whoever was there, but just drink water. It seemed like that was just the safest thing to. My life could be more predictable. There was times that the churches that I grew up in, you hugged everybody. It wasn't a little shake the hand kind of thing. You hugged. Well, when I did, of course, your face and your neck is right up there on their shoulder or near their face, where their lotions, their perfumes, all of that's there. And by the time I would get in the car, I'd just be clawing. So I would keep a wet bath cloth in there so I could kind of try to stop any reactions. Sometimes before I would go to bed, I would shower before I'd get in the bed, and just the hot water of the bath would bring the blood more to the surface of my hands and my face. So I would wet a bath cloth, stick it in the freezer for a few minutes, and then like try to freeze out my hands and my face so that I could go to sleep and not claw. I don't know that I've ever shared all this at one time. So this is like me opening up a lot. I'm sorry. I love to go to the beach, even like in the wintertime, if we could go to the Gulf. And it just seems like it was a stress reliever, but the salt water, the sun, the whole combination, I would always be better. And when I say better, it would always get better, but I never got well. No matter what we did, nothing ever got better. And so then I'm 29 years old. We are at Jake and Jessica Dyer's wedding, and I see Juan again. And this time he asked for my address. And so, I mean, I was eager to give it to him because for me, it was love at first sight when I saw him at the age of 20. And here we are at 29 years old. So he asked for my address. And, but there was a part of me was like, can he not see all the times that he has seen me? I mean, I'm a mess. You know, it was so obvious when I would look in the mirror. And one side of my face was worse than the other side. So, you know, you always try to stand, but then you forget and you get into the moment. And I don't know.
She mentioned that we met. When did we meet?
When I was 20.
When she was 20. And I was attracted to her, and we, you know, became friends. And when I left, I thought, she is cute. She seems like a nice girl, but she's an only child from Georgia. There's no way she's going to follow me to California. So why get anything started? I said, and being an only child, I love children. I might end up with a dog and a cat, no children. So I kind of, in my mind, dismissed it. And we would see each other when we go to cat meetings, we'd see each other in there. And every time I'd see her, she was always pleasant to visit with, and I always was attracted to her. But again, I would talk myself out of it, like, no. So this time, I thought, you know what? It keeps coming back. And every time I see her, I'm attracted to her. And, maybe, it'll be something there. So we spoke a little bit more. And then what gave it away basically is I kept asking for her address, but right before I left, she shook my hand like 5 times. Before I left, and she kept following the crowd, and so I had to kind of, keep shaking her hand. So I knew that something might be there. So
yeah, it was always there for you. We got engaged, and of course, I wanted to be upfront. He knew about my skin condition. I'd say a little something, hinting. And finally, I was like, I need to tell you that I can't list. I'm not a pessimist. I'm just being for real. I cannot touch produce. Just putting the produce away or working in the kitchen with mother, you rinse your hands, you wipe them on the towel, and everybody's using the towel. They're working in the kitchen. I would do that, and just wiping my hands on the same towel, they would become inflamed and terrifying itch. So I couldn't deal with the food, touching the produce and all.
Later, she asked me, when you first met me, what did you think about my skin? And I told her, I said, every time I saw you, I do not remember once ever seeing you and say, ooh, she's breaking out, or she's got something, going on.
I said, love is blind.
But he does wear glasses.
Yeah. But I never, her personality, her smile, her, I never did notice that she had a skin problem until she started telling me after we got engaged, I can't do this and this and this, and giving me more of almost like you can back out if you want to, because, I'm not the normal girl. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, maybe this is more than I thought. But to me, her skin had never been an issue. I never noticed that it was something that would, run me away.
So because of all of the environmental
Let's
allergies.
Go back to this. I did mention that when I first met her, I did not pursue the relationship because she was an only child, and she's far away. She may not follow me, and children was a big deal to me. And so at Jake's wedding, I don't know at what point, either at Jake's wedding or after I got her phone number and called her for the first time, at one point we talked, and I got brave and asked her, I said, you're an only child, and do you like children? And she says, oh, I love children. And I said, well, if you marry, you would like a big family, a little family? And she said, oh, I would love a big family. I said, well, what's big to you? And she said 12. And I thought, oh, great. Okay. I misread her. I thought she wouldn't even like children. So that's one of the things that kind of, I said, okay, she might be the one.
But he also, right before he asked me that question, he told me a story about a husband and wife, and they were discussing how many children they wanted, and one of them wanted 2 and the other one wanted 3, so they had 5. So I asked him, I said, well, what number are you thinking about? He said, 15. And I was like, whoa. But when you marry at 30 and almost 34, that's kind of a big number.
So they went with 8.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know us, we have 8 children, so she still owes me 4.
How old is Benjamin?
Benjamin is almost 10. He'll be 10 in September.
Yeah, that's the baby, if you don't remember from previous episodes.
I feel very, very blessed to have 8.
Yeah.
So because of all the external allergies and the food allergies, I had minimal domestic skills. And Juan came in being Mr. could do it all. And he was a wonderful guinea pig when I tried to cook, and came in and has, through the years, rescued many, many meals.
When she was telling me this before we married, and kind of almost give me out if I wanted to, and tell me she didn't know how to do this and that. And to me, that was not the big issue. I was in love with her, and I was marrying her for her, not for her domestic skills. And I thought, I mean, every girl and every young man has to learn a few things after they marry. So we'll learn together. Yeah. So that was not a big deal for me. It wasn't a deal breaker for him.
I did learn to tell if I was a good cook or not, depending on how much Tallulah and Tapatio he put on. The more he put, it needed more help.
Since we're on this topic, I guess I'll jump ahead. And after we had been married, I think probably about 3 months, and I came in from work, and I told her, I said, you know what, I love vegetables and I like your cooking, but I said, I would like some meat once in a while. And she says, what do you mean meat? And he said, I've been making sure that every day you have some meat in your lunch, because I knew that people would be making fun of you, that you were going to turn into a vegetarian. Mm-hmm. And I said, meat? I said, what are you talking about? He says, yeah, that little soup, which I would take some thermoses with food or whatever. He said, that, stuff, meat. And I said, no, I mean meat that the cows mooed in the past year. I said, that meat that's in those cans. I said, it's been about 8 years since the cows mooed last. I said, I mean some meat, like some fresh meat. And so we were building our house, and we were living in a travel trailer behind the property as we were building. And one day I come in to do something, and she was cooking a steak. And I thought, like, oh, man, I couldn't hardly wait. I come in, and she's got it all, calls me in when it's ready, and I couldn't hardly wait. And she sets my plate in front of me, and it's got the steak, and it's got some vegetables around there. You can still see the little pepper on top of the steak, and my mouth was just watering. And we're in a travel trailer, so we're sitting across from each other on a little table, and she's just staring at me. So finally I cut into the steak and take a bite. And all of a sudden, my brain just goes into this confused mode. Like, how in the world can you ruin a steak? I mean, you don't have to do a whole lot to a steak. It may be too rare, maybe overcooked, and it may be hard or whatever. The seasoning may not be there, but you can, to use these steak, you can make it taste good.
But this steak, it looked like a beautiful picture. But it tasted like seasoned cardboard. And
I took a bite, and my brain is doing all these things, but I'm not saying anything. And she looks at me and says, what do you think? And I didn't know what to say. And finally I said, you try it. And so she takes a bite and like, oh, And so I asked her, so how did you cook it? What did you do? Where did you buy the meat? Everything she told me should have been a really good steak. And she said, I don't know what I did. And so anyway, I thought I ate it. I mean, I wasn't going to waste the steak. So I put more Cholula on it, more hot sauce. And a few weeks later, she tried it again, and the same thing. And I said, I don't know what to tell you. And then finally, the third time, I was working on the house, and I went in to get something in the trailer, and she was beginning to get my steak ready to start cooking. And she's got my steak in a little pan, a little pot, a container,
a bowl.
And you see the steak floating. I think, what are you doing? He says, oh, I'm washing all the blood. I said, when the water turns color, then I dump it out and get fresh water, and I keep doing it until the water is clear. And I said, that's why my steak tastes like cardboard. You've sucked all the flavor and the cheese out of it. So, I was just like a sponge. She was just... And so finally I said, he says, well, I get it from the store. When I get it out of the package, it's all bloody and stuff. That's fine. Just put salt and pepper and throw it in the skillet, and it'll be perfectly fine. So I had to kind of talk her how to cook a steak. And so now she's a great cook. I mean, I tell that story not to run her down, but just to give you an idea of,
lack of.
Yeah. And, but she, my sister and the ladies at the church have she has learned from them, and she's an excellent cook. You can tell by just looking at me.
So I was 30 and we got married. And so I told the photographer, I said, I want, of course, wedding pictures, but I want you to take them all from this side of my face as much as possible and not this other side. And so even then, we're still trying to accommodate this skin issue. We start across the country. We took our honeymoon driving across the country. And a couple of days after we had married, it seems like my skin got worse. And
like you said earlier, so she was real conscious of her skin, but I had never paid any attention. But all of a sudden now in the honeymoon, and her skin does start getting worse. And I'm thinking, okay, now I really am noticing it. I mean, and it's very obvious, real agitated. And I never told her, but in my back of my mind, I think like, oh, she's already shared all her allergies. I said, well, what if she's allergic to me? Because she's getting worse now that we're married. And it really sounds funny, but it was a concern to me. Like, oh, great. Now she's allergic to me. And,
I didn't know, how we were everything was going to work out. But we went to Blanchard.
We stopped at Gypsy. Mm-hmm. We stopped at Gypsy to see Larry and Janice. And usually when we would go back east before I married, our usual stops was always, certain people. And I wanted her to meet some of the people that, were my friends. And Brother Larry Wood and Sister Janice was always real welcoming to the bunch of the boys. And we just make our stuff at home at her house. And and so I told her, I want to stop and so you can meet Brother Larry and Sister Janice. It just so happened that when we stopped there, Brother Donnie and Sister Connie were there also. So she got to meet them too. So after visiting and we're telling them we're getting ready to leave and Brother Donnie says, well, he said, why don't you guys, we told them that we were thinking of stopping at Blanchard for Sunday morning. And he said, well, why don't you just guys go and spend the night at my house? He said, we're going somewhere. And the boys are at some camp meeting, so they're not home. So the house is, empty. Why don't you guys stop by? Well, I know that, that sometimes a man can invite, but if the lady of the house is not in sync with that invitation, sometimes you're not real welcome. But Sister Connie spoke up. He said, yes, you guys come on, just go. And they begged. And when it came from her, I said, okay, if it's okay with Sister Connie, then it's okay to go. And, we didn't want to take advantage of him, but at the same time, I've always enjoyed going to Brother Donnie and Sister Connie's house because he's a great finish carpenter, and I always enjoy seeing his house and what he does, with the trim and the cabinets. And I had shared some of that with her. And so when they gave us the invitation, I said, that'd be perfect. You get to see what I'm telling you, you get to see their home. So we finally said yes. They gave us a key, and we went and spent the night at their house. And so then the next morning we could wake up and we go to church Sunday morning at Blanchard.
And these are all people I don't know. I didn't know Brother Larry and Sister Denise, only what he had told me. They were just names. And then I meet Brother Donnie and Sister Connie, their names. And then we're going to the Blanchard church. I knew who Brother Lyndall Birdsong was, as far as I had seen him maybe or heard the name. But I didn't know him. I didn't know these people. Now, yes, it's holiness people, but, I've never been to this church before. And so here we are. We come in right after Sunday school. We sit toward the back. And right after we got there, Brother Lyndall gets up to start preaching.
Well, a few people came and greeted us and welcomed us as they were coming out of Sunday school.
Out of Sunday school, yes.
And into the regular service.
But it was not long before he was up preaching. And as soon as he was reading his text, I'm like, this message is for me. And it was about the man who had been in this condition a long time. Jesus knowing this man had been in a condition for a long time. I didn't look up the reference. I'm sorry. And he just preached with that Jesus had such compassion for this man. And he brought hope and healing to the man.
And you could feel the Spirit of the Lord as soon as he started preaching.
And so I was like so into the message and making the personal application that when he gave the altar call, I wanted to go to the altar. My faith was, had been built to seek the Lord. But I'm like, all of a sudden I stopped. I never moved on my seat. I just like stopped myself like, I can't go to the altar. I don't know these people. I don't know, I froze. And so Juan looked at me and he said, aren't you going to go pray? And I said, well, I don't know.
It was
anybody.
so obvious that the Spirit of the Lord was there in the message.
It really was.
That I was looking at her like, why are you not standing up and running to the altar? I mean, it was that strong. Mm-hmm. And finally I said, are you not going to go to the front? And she finally was like, yes, I can. And so she goes to the front and I go straight to Brother Lindo and I get his attention. And I said, would you mind getting the men of the church and praying for my wife? And I explained a little bit about her condition. He said, sure. So he got the few of the men and they gathered around her and began to pray. You could feel the Spirit of the Lord there. And,
mm-hmm. And I was praying. By the time I got to the altar, it had already filled up. So I prayed at the front bench there. And like you said, the men came over, whoever, 2 or 3. It was a small group. And they came over and prayed for me. And while they were praying, it was like the Holy Ghost witnessed in just such a quiet way, but definitely no question. And while they were praying for me, like when your arm goes to sleep, you have a tingling sensation when the blood starts flowing back in. Okay, that was the tingling sensation that I felt all in my face, which was like the worst part of my skin condition. And I just kind of froze. I didn't know what was going on. I had never experienced anything like that. But I was like, God's working somehow. I don't know what he's doing, but we have touched God and he's working for me. And the men left. We said hello to a few people. We got in the vehicle to leave church. And I looked at one and I said, I don't know if I'm healed. I said, but let me tell you what just happened. And I said, I've never experienced anything like that before. And so we still didn't know what God did. There was no visible signs. There was nothing. But I knew that God had met us. And so from that time forward, just progressively, but quickly, it was not long after that.
We just kept traveling and, mm-hmm. and never thought about it again until we got home. And then just little things that she couldn't do or things that would aggravate her before, she started noticing and pointing them out to me like, I should be breaking out. And I'm doing this and this. And
I'm not.
And especially before we married, I told her that I was, building a house. And I said, what would you like me to get for us to live? I said, you wanted me to get an apartment? You wanted to try to get a house? Whatever. She said, I don't know. And I said,
I'm coming to California to be with you.
And she said, what were you going to do? I said, I knew you had plans to build a house before we, all this. What were you going to do if I hadn't come in the picture? I said, I was just going to buy a travel trailer and park it in the back of the property. And, as I build, I was going to live there. He said, well, let's just do that. That sounds fun. So we went and bought a travel trailer. So we get home from our honeymoon to a travel trailer, nicely decorated by my young friends from the Rain City Church.
Define decorated in this case. I don't remember this part of the story.
Oh, I have pictures.
They somehow, I don't know.
Well, Juan gave a key to one of the house cleaners in our church for her to come in and, quote, get it clean for me. But I think she invited some people who kind of made it like a welcome party when we got home. So.
What do they have? Like a Mexican mannequin in the bed?
On this sofa, they had like the papa and the mama and the little baby. So I remember the little baby was like somebody's little stuffed monkey. Yeah. And then because we married in September, pumpkins were out then. They took one of those plastic pumpkins like you put your treats in, if you're going to trick or treating. And that was the head of the mama and the papa. And then they took somebody's clothes and stuffed them
And they
with
had a sombrero for me.
Yes,
And
yes.
they had a Mexican dress for you, I think.
Yeah. So,
and then somehow there was some kind of scary mask. And if you've ever been in a travel trailer, usually there's a little dome skylight thing to get
over the
light
bathroom.
over the bathroom. So they put that scary mask looking down on that little window.
I never saw that because he kind of, because seeing what they probably did, he climbs up and moves it. So I never got scared. And then they hung the party red and green streamers, like going into the bedroom was on one end. You come in the trailer on the opposite end. So when you go into the bedroom, you go through these little streamers. And they had some little signs.
I think they had little snacks
like,
and different things. So they were.
It was cute. I made pictures. It was sweet.
So anyway, we get to this travel trailer that is, she shared earlier about her dust and how careful she had to be. And that was one of the first things that you get to a travel trailer. I mean, even in a home here in the valley, especially in September, you have all the harvest going on. You can't keep dust from not coming into your house. But now think of a travel trailer. You can't, You've
got the shaking of the almonds, the sweeping of the almonds, just the plowing of the fields. It's always a dust bowl here.
And all of a sudden she realized that, hey, this place is so dusty, and yet I'm not breaking out like I should. And just like I shared about my mother cleaning my room every day, I mean, there was no way I could clean that place. And it was hot. And I'm not going to run the AC all the time. I could stand it a little hotter than he could, So I would just open up the trailer and enjoy the fresh air. And I mean, I was right in the middle of the dust, whether I was in the trailer or out of the trailer. And so one day he came home and he said, Teresa, you're going to have to buy some stronger detergent. I like work and my clothes are not getting clean. And because I was still buying the special sensitive detergent for me. So I started buying the detergent for him, and I wasn't breaking out using it or ironing his clothes. Of course, I was hugging him and I wasn't breaking out. And I'm like, well, why am I washing my clothes in something sensitive? So I realized I could wash my clothes in the same thing that he did. It wasn't that I was trying God to I just didn't know what he had done for me. So it was a learning experience to see what God had done. And so the detergents, that was early on. I was still very careful. I did not want to tempt God. And Christmas Day, we had married the 1st of September. On Christmas Day, we found out that we were expecting. And I was very, very excited. But in the back of my mind, I was very, very worried. And I'm thinking, what if it's a girl? I kind of wanted a boy. It wasn't that I did not want a girl. I just didn't know what the future held. And as it turned out, it was a boy. It was Philip. And so then we're expecting, and it's Kara. And when I found out it was a little girl, even though she came along later, 2 years after we had been married, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what's this little girl's life going to be? Did God heal me? And then now it's going to be I didn't know. And when she was born, she was the most beautiful baby. I mean, newborn babies, are beautiful to their mom, but, but she had the most beautiful skin, and it was a big deal to me. That was it. I knew that God had stopped whatever, and he had done the work for my children. I really don't remember worrying about any of the other children after that. What was going on? With every baby, shortly after we had married, my skin had cleared up. But when
I was expecting with every baby, I would get a patch on my arm, on my leg, on my back. Maybe this big around. I don't know how big that is.
A couple inches.
Couple inches round. And it would not be deep, but it would be a dry patch that was extremely itchy. And it would last the entire expectancy. And then, like, the moment I delivered, it would start to get better. And 24 hours after I delivered, it was gone. And every time, I felt like it was God reminding me of what he had done. I didn't even worry that what was going to happen. It was just like, this is God reminding me. And I would just thank him for what he had done. I never forgot how it used to be. I can remember just rubbing my face, looking in the mirror thinking, it feels so smooth. It was weird. Around the time of Isaac's birth, which would have been close to 4 years into marriage, like I said, I did not want to tempt God, but I didn't know what he had done. I had always bought red potatoes because they seemed to be a little easier on my digestion than the russet potatoes. So I go to the grocery store, check out, and they say, "Oh, you bought X amount of dollars of groceries. We're going to give you a bag of free potatoes." Some special promotion they had. I said, okay. So it gave me 5 pounds of white potatoes. And I come in and Juan said, "Why'd you buy white potatoes? You never buy white potatoes." I said, "I didn't. It's some special they gave me." And I said, "But don't worry." I said, "I'll just give them to somebody or whatever. And, we'll move on." Well, I was away for something. I don't know. And I came in one night. It was like on a Monday. He had got home way earlier and I wasn't there. And when I came in, the house smelled so good. Well, he had made potato taquitos. I never even heard of them, never had them. And he said, "Here, try this." Well, he wasn't tempting me. I didn't even think anything about it.
By this point, I wouldn't even. I knew that the Lord had healed her, so it wasn't an issue that she couldn't eat.
I was eating pretty much anything.
Yeah.
But I still was careful with the potatoes.
But she was being careful with certain things, and potatoes was one of the things that she was always buying red potatoes.
Mm-hmm. So I ate it. Oh, it was so good. So I ate a few. I don't remember. And so the next day at lunch, there was a few leftovers. So I had them, as leftovers. And then Wednesday night, we're driving home from church. And I said, "If I help you, you tell me what to do," because I didn't know how to do them. I said, "Can we make some potato taquitos tonight after church?" They were so good. He said, "Yeah." So he helps me, or he does it, and I help him make the potato taquitos. Of course, I have the leftovers on Thursday. And I don't remember what happened Friday, but it's like Saturday. And all of a sudden, it clicks in my brain. I've eaten potatoes every day this week, like a nice served portion of them. And I'm like, I am not broke out. It was just like, wow, I don't even eat that many potatoes, red or anything. But it was like God kind of shut down that part of my brain somehow. And I was just eating potatoes. And then I was like, I'm really, really healed. And I just couldn't believe it. So, I buy red potatoes if we want red potatoes, but now because of the size of our family and all, it's like a regular thing. We buy 50 pounds of russet potatoes
sometimes
all the time.
100 pounds the other. Just a couple of weeks ago, I went by Smart and Final. I thought, we're almost out of potatoes. So I bought 50 pounds of potatoes. And then Anna knew we were out of potatoes, and she was doing the grocery shopping, so she stopped at Smart and Final.
All
and
on the same day.
Another 50 pounds of potatoes.
So we had 100 pounds of potatoes. They did not go to waste in this house.
So that just gives you an idea how many potatoes we eat.
Yeah. I'll share one more story. I know it's getting long. But shortly after this potato taquito incident, an elder in our church passed away. And so the church was going to do the count meeting meal for the family. So, a meat, potatoes, a veggie, whatever. And so they were going to pass out bags of potatoes Wednesday night at church. Every woman was going to take a little bag home, make mashed potatoes, bring it back the following morning for the funeral, and we're going to serve the family. well, I've only been married for 4 years. I'm still learning how to cook. And I realized at that point, I don't make mashed potatoes like other people do. And here they are. They're going to have my mashed potatoes and their mashed potatoes. And so on the way home from church, I've got my little bag of potatoes I'm supposed to do. And I'm expressing my stress to Juan. And I said, I don't know if I can do these potatoes right. Sister so-and-so does it this way, and Sister so-and-so does it this, and that's different than the way I do it. And he was like, just do them like you do. They taste good. It's not that big a deal. So we come in, we eat a snack. He goes in the office to do some paperwork, and I'm in the kitchen, and I've got babies, so I'm trying to get a head start for the following morning. So I thought, I'll go ahead and peel the potatoes and get them in the water cut up, and then in the morning it'll go fast. So I'm peeling the potatoes alone in the kitchen. The children are playing. And I'm just like, he just does not understand. This is a really big deal. And he just kind of brushed it off. I mean, that was sweet that he thinks I know how to do it. But it's a big deal that it matches up with what the other ladies of the church are doing. And I mean, I'm kind of, not happy because he was not compassionate enough. And I'm peeling this potato when all of a sudden I realize if you peel a potato, you kind of have to hug the potato, really grip it to peel it. And I'm gripping the potato and I am peeling away, and my hands are not turning red. They're not itching. And all of a sudden I look at my hands and they just look, potato peeling on it, but they're like normal. So I run into the office and I said, Juan, look at my hands. And I'm showing him my hands, and he said, okay. Like, I see your hands. Like, what am I supposed to be looking at? And I said, they're normal. And he's like, yeah. I said, but I'm peeling potatoes. They're supposed to be like red and itchy and all. He says, well, that's good, So I said, yes, it's like a miracle. And so he goes back doing paperwork, and I go back in the kitchen, and I'm peeling potatoes, and I'm like, oh my goodness, he just doesn't understand. This is such a miracle. Thank you, Jesus.
To me, it had been 4 years ago since the miracle happened, but she was still, she's still nervous in the back of her mind. It might come back. And I thought, well, the Lord did the work, and he did a good job. So
30 years of habits are kind of hard to break.
Yeah.
I did not realize the extent of the miracle that God had done, and to God be the glory. I mean, I tried all these things I shared, at the beginning, but it was clearly God. So that's the story of my skin. And
Yeah.
September 2nd, which is the day you're planning to release this podcast, we will be married 25 years. And
So if anyone's complaining about why they're coming on again, I got the invitation and thought, ooh, this will be perfect. And then I found out the date the anniversary is, oh boy, I did not plan it. I could have planned it better.
So here we are, 25 years later,
So
and 8 little
Brother
babies
Stephen
later.
is helping us celebrate our 25th anniversary by inviting us to get on his podcast. So thank you, Brother Stephen. So.
Thank you, baby. Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening.